Good morning, my friends. I want you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and notice something very simple, the thought you just had, and the way your body responded to it. Every thought you have creates chemistry in your body. This isn't philosophy, this is physiology. Right now, as you sit here, your brain is producing electrical signals, tiny pulses of energy, that ripple into your nervous system and release molecules throughout your body. These molecules shape how you feel, how you move, even how you heal. When you think a fearful thought, say you imagine failing, or you replay an argument from yesterday, your brain signals the release of cortisol and adrenaline. These are stress hormones. They raise your heart rate, tighten your muscles, narrow your focus. They prepare you for fight or flight. That's useful if you're running from a predator. But here's the problem. Your body doesn't distinguish between the predator in the jungle and the predator in your mind. Your biology responds the same way. Now, if you think a thought of love or gratitude, imagine someone you deeply care about, or recall a time you felt genuine joy, your brain releases very different chemicals. Oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. These molecules don't tighten your muscles, they relax them. They don't narrow your focus, they expand it. They open your heart rate variability, improve your immune system, and literally create what you could call a healing state in your body. What's fascinating is how quickly this happens. The lag time between thought and chemistry is almost non-existent. A single stressful thought can spike cortisol in seconds. A single memory of love can release oxytocin just as fast. Which means in every moment of your life, your inner pharmacy is either creating medicine or creating poison, and you are the pharmacist. I want you to think about this for a moment. If you were holding a glass of clear water and you added a drop of ink, the whole glass would be altered. In the same way, one thought changes the entire chemical tone of your body. Now imagine the hundreds of thoughts you think each hour, the thousands you think each day. Those aren't just mental events, they're chemical instructions shaping your biology. This is why you can feel exhausted without lifting a finger. It's why you can sit perfectly still and yet your heart is racing, your palms sweating, your digestion shut down, because your thoughts sent the order and your body obeyed. Here's the empowering part. You can reverse engineer this process. If a single thought of fear can spike stress hormones, a single thought of gratitude can counteract them. Gratitude, in particular, is one of the most powerful regulators of your nervous system. When you focus your mind on something you are genuinely thankful for, not in a vague way, but with real detail, your brain releases oxytocin. That one molecule lowers stress, improves immune function, and enhances your ability to connect with others. You don't need hours of practice to feel it. Studies show that even 30 seconds of real gratitude can shift your entire physiology. Your heart rate slows, your muscles unclench, your breathing deepens. The current of energy between your thoughts and your body resets to harmony. Let's make this practical. Right now, call to mind one person you are grateful for. Picture their face, their eyes, the sound of their voice. Let yourself feel the appreciation you have for them. Notice what happens in your body as you do that. For many of you, your breathing is already calmer, your shoulders are dropping. That's not imagination, that's neurochemistry. And here's where it gets even more interesting. These molecules don't just affect your inner state, they affect how you interact with the world. When your brain releases stress hormones, you see fewer options. Your field of vision narrows, your thinking constricts. But when your brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, your field of vision literally expands. Your eyes take in more. Your thoughts are more creative. You see possibility where you didn't see it before. So the chemistry created by your thoughts not only changes your body, it changes your perception of reality. This is why some people live in what feels like a storm of stress, while others move with lightness and clarity. It's not that life is objectively easier for one person than another. It's that their chemistry, the inner current created by their thoughts, is different. And because of that, their experience of life is different. So if you want to change how your body feels, if you want to shift your energy, you don't need to wait for the world outside you to change. You don't need to wait for the perfect job, the perfect partner, or the perfect circumstance. You can start right here, right now, by noticing your thoughts and choosing to create chemistry that serves you. Remember, you are not just living in a body, you are living in a pharmacy, and the prescription is written by your thoughts. Your body never lies. It is always giving you feedback, always speaking whether you choose to listen or not. Every single signal, tightness in your chest, butterflies in your stomach, tension in your jaw, is a direct reflection of the conversation happening between your brain and your body. Most of us ignore it or we try to numb it, but the truth is your body is the most accurate readout of your internal state. Think about this, your brain and body are not separate. They're in constant dialogue. The brain sends signals through your nervous system, releasing hormones, neurotransmitters, and electrical pulses that shape how your body feels. At the same time, your body sends signals back through the vagus nerve, through hormones, through sensory feedback that influence how your brain thinks. It's a loop. What you think affects your body, and what your body feels feeds back into your thoughts. This is why you can't lie to yourself with words. You can say, "I'm fine," 100 times, but if your stomach is in knots, if your breathing is shallow, if your shoulders are hunched, your body is telling the truth, and your nervous system knows the truth. Take anxiety, for example. People often describe it as racing thoughts. But if you zoom in, what's really happening is your body is signaling the brain that something is off. Your heart rate speeds up, your breathing becomes shallow and fast, your palms sway. Those signals travel to the brain and say, something is wrong. Pay attention. The brain then produces thoughts that match the signals, often catastrophic ones. But the original message started in the body. Now, here's the fascinating part. You can use the body as a lever to shift the brain. If you slow your breathing, making your exhales longer than your inhales, you activate the parasympathetic branch of your nervous system. That's the common arm, the one that tells the brain you are safe. Within a minute or two, your heart rate follows, your muscles release, and the thoughts of panic begin to soften. In that moment, the body spoke louder than the fearful thoughts. The reverse is also true. When you feel joy or love, your body registers it. Your chest feels open, your face softens, your eyes widen. Those signals travel back to the brain and reinforce the positive state. That's why laughter is so contagious. One person laughs, their body releases endorphins, their posture shifts, their eyes light up, your nervous system picks up those cues, and your brain mirrors the chemistry. The body broadcasts the truth, and everyone around can feel it. What often gets overlooked is that chronic tension in the body is not random. That tight jaw you've had for months, that's not just bad posture. It's a story your nervous system has been repeating. It might be the body holding on to unprocessed stress or a constant low-level thought of worry you haven't even noticed. The lower back pain that spikes when you're under pressure isn't only mechanical. It's the body mirroring the weight you feel internally. So the question becomes, are you willing to listen? Are you willing to treat your body not as an obstacle, not as something to fix, but as a messenger? Because when you pay attention to the signals, you can trace them back to the thoughts and emotions that created them. And when you trace them back, you create the opportunity to change. This isn't abstract, it's practical. The next time you feel tension, instead of distracting yourself, pause. Ask, what am I thinking that my body is echoing right now? You may notice a thought of fear, or a belief that you have to be perfect, or a worry about the future. That awareness alone loosens the grip. Then use your body to shift the state. Take 3 deep breaths with longer exhales. Drop your shoulders. Place your hand on your chest. These small actions send new signals to the brain telling it the danger has passed. And the chemistry follows. It's important to recognize that your body isn't against you. Those knots in your stomach, the headaches, the fatigue, they're not punishments. They're signals. They're your body's way of saying, pay attention. Something in your inner world needs alignment. When you respond with curiosity instead of judgment, the body softens. When you see the signals as guidance instead of problems, the body begins to trust you. What emerges then is a partnership. You stop fighting your body and start working with it. You stop ignoring or overriding the signals and start using them as a map. And that map always points you back to the same truth. Your body is a perfect reflection of your inner state. It will never lie to you. It will never mislead you. It will always tell you exactly what's happening between your thoughts and your nervous system, between your chemistry and your consciousness. When you learn to listen, you gain more than health. You gain alignment. You begin to live in harmony with the current of energy that flows between your mind and your body. Your body never lies. It always tells the truth. The only question is whether you're willing to listen. The energy that flows between your thoughts and your body is neutral. That's one of the most liberating and at the same time, sobering truths you can realize. It doesn't choose sides. It doesn't label your thoughts as good or bad, right or wrong. It simply takes what you give it and amplifies it through your biology. Think of it like electricity running through a wire. The current itself is not good or bad. It's just energy. What matters is what you connect it to. If you wire that current into a light bulb, it produces illumination. If you wire it into a bomb, it produces destruction. The current doesn't judge, it only expresses. Your thoughts work the same way. When you generate thoughts of resentment, anger, envy, or fear, the current takes those electrical patterns and translates them into stress chemistry. Cortisol rises, inflammation increases, your immune system becomes compromised. Your perception narrows, and you begin to see the world through a lens that confirms those states. In that mode, the energy is real, but the experience of it is heavy, contracted, and often painful. On the other hand, when you generate thoughts of compassion, curiosity, hope, or love, the very same current takes on a different quality. It floods your body with oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. Your nervous system shifts into what's known as the parasympathetic state, the rest and repair mode. Your perception widens, your creativity improves, your relationships deepen. The current hasn't changed. What changed was the quality of the signal you sent through it. This is why 2 people can experience the exact same external situation but respond in completely different ways. One person collapses into fear, their body tense, their thoughts spiraling. The other feels challenged but stays steady, curious, even open to growth. The difference isn't the situation, it's the signal they sent into the neutral current of energy. One broadcasted contraction, the other broadcasted expansion. When you begin to see this, it changes everything. You stop waiting for circumstances to shift before you feel better. You stop blaming the outside world for your internal state. Instead, you start asking, what kind of signal am I sending into the current right now? What chemistry am I asking my body to create? What reality am I rehearsing with my thoughts? It's important to emphasize here that this doesn't mean you should suppress difficult emotions. The energy current doesn't require you to be positive all the time. What it does require is awareness. If you're angry, notice it. If you're afraid, acknowledge it. Suppressing those signals only drives them deeper into your body, where they often emerge later as physical symptoms. But once you notice them, you have a choice. You can continue to amplify that frequency, or you can decide to shift. One of the most effective tools we know from neuroscience is state interruption. When you find yourself stuck in a loop of negative thoughts, you can deliberately break the pattern. A few deep breaths with extended exhales. A walk outside with your eyes focused on the horizon instead of the phone in your hand. Even listening to a piece of music that shifts your emotional state. These actions send a new signal into the current, which the body immediately begins to translate into new chemistry. What's remarkable is how quickly this can happen. The nervous system is plastic. It changes moment to moment based on the inputs it receives. That means you are never locked into the state you're in. The current is waiting, neutral, ready to carry whatever signal you choose. And every choice matters, because the more often you run a particular thought through the current, the stronger that pathway becomes in your brain and body. That's neuroplasticity. Repetition literally rewires you. Over time, you become a match to the energy you most often generate. If you repeatedly send signals of stress, your nervous system becomes better at being stressed. If you repeatedly send signals of gratitude or calm, your nervous system becomes better at being balanced. The current is simply training itself to reflect what you practice. So, the question isn't whether the energy works for you or against you. It's always working. The real question is, what are you feeding into it? Because that's what your body will express, and that's the reality you will experience. You are the conductor. That's not metaphor, that's biology. The energy flowing between your thoughts and your body doesn't organize itself. It waits for you to direct it. Every moment, through your attention and your choices, you're conducting the orchestra of your nervous system. And the way you conduct determines whether the music is chaotic noise or a coherent symphony. Think about the brain for a moment. Inside your skull, there are about 86 billion neurons. Each one communicates with thousands of others, creating trillions of connections. These neurons fire electrical signals, which then release chemical messengers, neurotransmitters, that spread throughout your brain and body. This constant firing is the current of energy we've been talking about. But here's the key: those neurons don't just fire randomly. They fire in response to what you focus on, what you think, what you imagine. In other words, the conductor's baton is your attention. When you dwell on a thought of fear, your attention instructs networks in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, to activate. The current flows there, and suddenly your whole body mobilizes for danger. When you shift your attention to a thought of curiosity or gratitude, you engage the prefrontal cortex, which is linked to planning, perspective, and emotional regulation. The current flows differently, and your body responds with calm and openness. The neurons fire in alignment with where you aim your attention. That's what makes you the conductor. You decide which section of the orchestra plays the loudest: fear or love, stress or calm, contraction or expansion. And the body always plays the music that the brain signals. Now, the fascinating thing about being a conductor is that skill develops with practice. At first, it may feel like the music runs away with you. A stressful thought enters, and suddenly the whole orchestra is blaring with adrenaline and cortisol. It feels automatic. But if you practice redirecting attention, just as a conductor would wave the baton to bring the violins in or soften the percussion, you start to notice you have far more influence than you realized. Neuroscience calls this top-down control. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain just behind your forehead, has the capacity to regulate lower, more reactive brain regions like the amygdala. That means when you consciously direct your attention, you can calm fear circuits, dampen stress responses, and literally reshape the way energy moves through your system. It's not about denying fear. It's about choosing what you amplify. Of course, this isn't effortless. Your brain has circuits designed to constantly scan for danger. They kept our ancestors alive, and they're still active today. But here's the empowering part: those same circuits are trainable. Through repetition, you can teach your nervous system to respond differently. Each time you catch yourself spiraling and redirect your attention, you're strengthening new neural pathways. That's how you, as the conductor, train the orchestra to follow your lead. One of the simplest, most powerful ways to practice this is through deliberate breathing. The body and brain are wired together, and breath is one of the fastest tools to regain control of the current. A pattern called physiological sighing, 2 inhales through the nose, 1 long exhale through the mouth, immediately lowers carbon dioxide levels in the blood, slows the heart, and tells the brain that it's safe. In that moment, you've taken the baton back, you've quieted the noise of stress and invited a calmer rhythm to play. Another tool is vision. Where you direct your gaze directly influences brain states. When you stare at a narrow point like a phone screen, you mimic the same visual pattern your brain uses when it's under threat. Stress circuits fire. But when you expand your gaze to take in the periphery, your nervous system shifts into a calmer state. That's why standing outside and looking at a wide horizon feels grounding. Once again, you're conducting the current with deliberate choices. What's essential to understand is that no one else can conduct for you. External circumstances will always provide stimuli, difficult conversations, unexpected challenges, even joyful surprises. But how that energy flows through your system depends on how you direct it. You can let the orchestra play chaotically, pulled in every direction by the environment, or you can step into the role that was always yours, the role of conductor, and decide what music will be played. Over time, this becomes less about single moments of control and more about the kind of symphony you create with your life. If you repeatedly direct energy toward resentment, the orchestra learns to play that tune fluently. If you consistently direct energy toward gratitude or curiosity, that becomes the dominant melody. The body simply follows the signals. The current simply flows where you aim it. And that's why understanding yourself as the conductor is so vital. It means you're not a victim of random thoughts or runaway chemistry. You are the one holding the baton. You are the one who decides whether the energy in your system creates noise or harmony. You are the conductor of the current, and the music of your life will play according to where you choose to direct it. Stillness amplifies the current. This is something both ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience agree on. When you quiet the mind and allow your body to settle, the flow of energy between the two stops being chaotic and becomes coherent. And in that coherence, extraordinary things happen. Most people live in a constant state of noise, external noise from the world, and internal noise from their own thoughts. The brain is a prediction machine, always trying to anticipate what's coming next, always calculating, always narrating. And because of this constant chatter, the nervous system rarely gets the opportunity to rest. It's like leaving the orchestra playing the loudest notes all day long without pause. Eventually, it creates strain. But when you bring yourself into stillness, whether through meditation, prayer, breathwork, or simply a few minutes of silence, you change the way the brain and body interact. The constant stream of thought slows down. Neural activity that is normally scattered across many regions begins to synchronize. And when neurons fire together in a more coherent rhythm, the current between your brain and body flows more efficiently. From a physiological perspective, stillness activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest, digestion, and repair. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, blood pressure decreases, stress hormones drop, the immune system strengthens. What's important to understand is that this isn't just relaxation, it's restoration. The body literally begins repairing itself in stillness. And it's not only the body, the mind shifts too. When you move into states of quiet, you activate what's called the default mode network. This is a collection of brain regions that integrate past, present, and future. It's the network responsible for self-reflection, memory, and imagination. In stillness, this network is no longer hijacked by anxious thoughts. Instead, it becomes a space for insight and clarity. That's why so many people have breakthroughs when they meditate or sit quietly. They're creating the conditions for the brain to process deeply rather than react superficially. One of the most fascinating findings in neuroscience is that moments of stillness allow the brain to engage in something called neural pruning. The brain literally clears out unnecessary connections and strengthens the useful ones. It's like cleaning the clutter out of a messy room. Without periods of quiet, that clutter builds up and the current of energy gets blocked. Stillness is the maintenance system for your mind. Now, it's important to note that stillness doesn't always mean sitting perfectly motionless. For some, stillness is found in focused movement, walking slowly, swimming, or practicing yoga. What matters is not the absence of motion, but the quality of attention. Stillness is about the nervous system shifting into a state where the energy between mind and body can flow freely without constant interference from scattered thoughts. A simple practice demonstrates this power. Try closing your eyes, inhaling through your nose, and extending the exhale slightly longer than the inhale. Do that for 1 or 2 minutes. Almost immediately, your body begins to calm. Your mind, which may have been running 1,000 miles an hour, slows its pace. What you're doing in that moment is amplifying the current. You're aligning the electrical activity in your brain with the signals in your body, and that synchronization creates stability. And here's the remarkable part: you don't need hours of practice to feel the effects. Even 30 seconds of deliberate stillness can shift your physiology. That's because the nervous system is exquisitely sensitive to patterns of input. A short, consistent practice of quiet can rewire your system far more effectively than occasional long sessions. The brain responds to frequency more than intensity. Stillness also expands your perception of time. In constant stress, life feels rushed, fragmented, out of control. But when you settle into stillness, time seems to widen. Moments stretch. The gap between stimulus and response grows larger. And in that gap, you gain freedom. You're no longer reacting instantly to every trigger. You have space to choose. That's one of the most profound gifts stillness offers. The ability to respond deliberately instead of reacting impulsively. In a very real sense, stillness is not the absence of activity, it's the amplification of awareness. When you stop moving and thinking constantly, you notice the finer details, the rhythm of your breath, the beat of your heart, the subtle shifts in your body. You become aware of the current itself, the flow of energy that is always present but often hidden beneath the noise. The body thrives in these states. The immune system gets stronger. Neural pathways that support calm and clarity are reinforced. The stress circuits begin to downregulate. In short, you give your biology the conditions it needs not just to survive but to thrive. And perhaps the most important effect is this: stillness reconnects you with the recognition that you are not simply a body generating thoughts, but energy expressing itself through both. When the noise quiets, what remains is the awareness of that current. It's not something you need to invent. It's always there. Stillness just allows you to feel it more clearly. Living as if you are already energy changes the way you approach everything. Most of us are conditioned to think of ourselves primarily as bodies, muscles, bones, skin, moving through space, carrying around a brain that generates thoughts. But if you zoom in with science, you see something different. At the cellular level, you're made up of atoms, and those atoms are more empty space and vibrating energy than solid matter. The brain itself works not by pushing matter around, but by creating tiny electrical and chemical signals that ripple through networks. You are quite literally an energetic system. The body is the structure, but energy is the essence. When you begin to live from that perspective, the choices you make shift. Instead of asking, what do I need to force my body to do? You start asking, what kind of energy am I cultivating? What frequency am I sending through my system? Because the energy you hold influences not only your own biology, but also the way people respond to you, the way opportunities arise, and the way you move through the world. This isn't abstract, it's measurable. When your nervous system is in a stressed, contracted state, you broadcast it. Your posture changes, your tone of voice shifts, your facial expressions carry tension. Others pick up on that instantly. Their nervous systems mirror it, even unconsciously, through what are called mirror neurons. But when you live in a state of openness, when the energy flowing through you is calm, focused, and elevated, the same thing happens. Others mirror that. Living as energy means recognizing that what you project in the current is what circulates back to you. From a biological standpoint, this means choosing thoughts, actions, and environments that reinforce the kind of energy you want to embody. If you feed your nervous system constant stress through chaotic inputs, endless multitasking, or self-critical thinking, you train it to run on those signals. But if you consistently feed it gratitude, deliberate breathing, focused presence, and curiosity, the current shifts. Your brain literally rewires to make those states easier to access. Over time, that becomes your default energy. Living this way also changes how you deal with challenges. Instead of identifying completely with the body's stress response, tight chest, racing thoughts, shallow breathing, you recognize that those are simply temporary expressions of energy moving through you. You don't have to fight them or be defined by them. You can step back, acknowledge them, and choose to redirect the current. This is what separates reactivity from resilience. You're no longer locked into being the body, you're the energy guiding it. What's fascinating is how this perspective influences longevity and health. Studies consistently show that people who cultivate practices that regulate energy, whether that's mindfulness, breathwork, prayer, or consistent gratitude, not only feel better, but also live longer. Their telomeres, which are markers of cellular aging, degrade more slowly. Their immune systems are stronger. Their cardiovascular systems function better. When you live as energy, you're not denying the body, you're optimizing it by working at the level of the current that powers it. And there's another layer. When you live primarily as body, you tend to see limits everywhere. You focus on what's missing, what's broken, what could go wrong. But when you live as energy, your perspective expands. You see possibility. You see the interconnectedness of things. Your attention shifts from survival to growth, from fear to creation. You begin to recognize that you're not separate from the field of energy around you. The current within you is part of a much larger current that flows through all of life. This shift isn't about abandoning the body. It's about remembering that the body is an instrument, not the entire song. It's the vessel through which energy expresses itself. When you live this way, you treat your body with more care, not less, because you understand it as the channel through which energy flows. You eat in a way that supports clarity instead of chaos. You sleep in a way that restores your nervous system. You move in ways that release stuck energy instead of holding it. Every choice becomes less about control and more about alignment. Living as if you are already energy is not about pretending to be something mystical or unreachable. It's about remembering what biology already shows us, that your essence is electrical, chemical, and vibrational, and that the quality of that essence is influenced by your thoughts, your focus, and your habits. You don't wait for the world to shift before you embody this energy. You step into it now, and the world responds in kind. So tonight, when you lay your head on the pillow, remember this: between your thoughts and your body runs a sacred current. It is the electricity of your life. Guard it, respect it. Choose thoughts that heal, inspire, and uplift, and watch how your body and your world begin to glow.